Okay. Thanks everybody for coming today. We are going to talk about nurse burnout and recognition, which I'm sure that everyone here probably knows what nurse burnout is, but we're going to go over the technical definition. Burnout is the physical, mental, and emotional state caused by overwork, but it's also coupled with feeling a lack of support or fulfillment. Causes of nurse burnout can be individualized to what's going on at your home, or it can be general to how your organization runs their business. The most common causes I have listed here are the nurse-patient ratio, fewer graduating nurses, and retiring nurses. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics employment projections, 203,700 nurses will be needed yearly to fill positions and replace retiring nurses. SALMIC 2018 reported that nurse burnout can have a critical impact on nurse well-being, patient safety, patient satisfaction, and the national nursing shortage, which I'm sure is not a surprise to anybody. Burnout leads to staff turnover and low productivity, which that's just the cycle that we'll go over in the next few slides. The next portion of the presentation is the literature review. All of the articles we're going to go over are peer reviewed. They have been in the last 5 years, so they are scholarly articles. And one thing that I like about these studies is that it has a range of participants. So some of the participants are critical care nurses, some are med-surg nurses, and it comes from a wide variety of hospitals across the U.S. So Kelly and Lefton 2017 conducted a survey to examine the effect of meaningful recognition. It had 1,136 participants from 24 different hospitals. The employees who received meaningful recognition had statistically significant decreased burnout and higher compassion satisfaction. The t-test results are listed here to show that it was statistically significant. The recommendation of the survey was to implement a reward or recognition system to increase the nurses' trust and commitment to the organization. Two key things to look at in this study is that the results were statistically significant. So it wasn't just an improvement, it was a big enough improvement that it impacted their numbers. And secondly, that it was meaningful recognition. So it wasn't just a weekly thank you email from their boss, it was a specific thank you for doing this because it helped me in this way. Study number 2, from 2019, Ulrich, Barden, Cassidy, and Barn Davis. They conducted a study with the purpose of assessing the significance of critical care nurses' health and job satisfaction. This study had 8,080 nurses, all from all 50 states, and the Spearman correlation confirmed that the nurses report recognition is most meaningful when it comes from patients, the patient's family, or their colleagues. Positive influence on job satisfaction, intent to stay in their current position, and quality of care were all impacted. In 2006, 30.9% of RNs were not happy in their current position. After the program was implemented in 2018, that percentage dropped to 28.6%. So while it was not statistically significant, it was a marked improvement. Study number 3 is from 2015. Chen et al. Conducted study to determine how the organization's morals could affect nurses' trust and identification. This was particularly interesting to me because it wasn't based on the reward system and it wasn't based on finances. This was specific to how the organization functions with their morals. This had 386 RNs and it was analyzed by chi-square root and root mean square. The standardized residual confirmed that organizational trust and organizational identification has positive effects on nurse commitment. Organizational trust, work-life balance, and communication have influence on staff commitment. Study number 4. Chen, 2018, performed a study with the purpose of investigating the relationship of salary and motivation. This had 3,450 RNs, and the t-test compared working hours when payment is 0 versus working hours when payment is greater than 0. When financial compensation is low, employee attitude is poor, but work hours are higher. So this is the cycle of burnout that we can see when financial compensation is low. People's attitude are also not well, and then they work higher hours to make up for that money missed. So it causes a higher risk for error. Patient satisfaction is decreased, nurse burnout increases. Study number 5, 2018, Jeffrey, Mosier, and Baker conducted a study on developing a high-level recognition program for nursing units and how it impacts their performance improvement. This was 509 med-surg nurses from 129 different United States hospitals. Cluster analysis and regression analysis showed that nurses were striving for performance improvement when a structured recognition program was in place. The key to this study is that the recognition program was structured. It wasn't just a reward that was handed out. This had policies, procedures, this had rules for the manager to follow when nominating someone to receive that reward. And here is my PICO. PICO stands for Problem, Implementation, Comparison, and Outcome. Problem is the burnout, which we've already identified. Implementation is recognition. Comparison, we're going to compare that to a group of nurses who did not have a recognition program. And our outcome is going to be by a self-reported questionnaire, and hopefully it will confirm the outcome of increased job satisfaction. This relates to nursing theory in a couple of different ways. I chose to correlate it back to Paplow's theory of interpersonal relations. Paplow's theory has 4 components, which is orientation, identification, exploitation, and resolution. The goal is to understand the behaviors, identify the difficulties, and apply principles. So in this theory, we are going to identify the nurse as the patient. And the first 2 phases we've already completed. So we've orientated ourselves to the problem, and we've identified the interventions we want to put in place, which would be the recognition program. The last 2, we haven't quite gotten to yet, the exploitation and resolution. We need to implement the interventions, we need to assess and see if it was successful, and make changes from there if need be. Once this is complete, nurse leaders can create an atmosphere of trust and self-care. This is my personal research design for the burnout problem. Case management staff at an MCE with RNs and LPNs. It would ideally be a 20 participant minimum. It would be quantitative in nature with the CAUSE experiment, pre and post survey for data collection. I would implement a structured recognition program and then reevaluate the nursing staff 12 weeks after that was implemented. Data collection would be anonymous because of an online domain, and we would not need any consents because we're not using any patient information, and this is solely based on volunteers. If there is a statistically significant increase, a recognition policy would then be implemented. Data collection and analysis, I would use the critical elements of a healthy work environment scale. This measures the work environment using a Likert scale. So this would be 1 is strongly disagree, 2 disagree, 3 would be neutral, that sort of thing. At the end, I would allow open-ended questions so you could include the meaningful and personal recognition. Spearman correlation would be used to measure the degree of association between variables. And in conclusion, burnout does not discriminate. It can be hospital staff, it can be home health, telecommuting, whatever kind of nurse you are, you can experience burnout. Retiring nurses versus graduating nurses is a big problem because we don't have enough graduating nurses to fulfill new positions, much less the nurses that are retiring. Even if we did, they don't have the experience behind their name like the retiring nurses do. Organizational attention is demanded to decrease turnover, increase job satisfaction, increase patient satisfaction, and increase the quality of care. Structured recognition is shown to encourage staff and increase commitment to not only the organization, but the nursing profession. The next 2 slides are my reference slides, and if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer those. Thanks, guys.